Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This is your teacher Saidin Ram, lecturer, Department of English, kust. The course is Research Methods in Linguistics. The course code is ENG 382. This is lecture 9, video 1. And the topic which I am going to discuss today is identifying and defining a research problem. Before starting this video lecture, I would like to give you an outline of today's lecture. First of all, I would review some concepts and topics we have discussed in the previous lecture. They include the nature of research, the nature of research methods and methodology, essentials of research, and deductive versus inductive approach to research. Then I will move on to discussing the current topic, which is research problem, definition of research problem, identification of research problem, characteristics of research problem, and the deficiency model in research problem. So first of all, let's review some of the concepts we have discussed in the previous lectures. First of all, let's talk about the nature of research. Research is, as you know, a careful investigation or inquiry for new facts in any branch of knowledge. It can also be termed as the creation of knowledge through systematic efforts. The Advanced Learner's Dictionary defines research as a careful investigation or inquiry, especially through search for new facts in any branch of knowledge. And then, according to Redmond and Morey, research is a systematized effort to gain new knowledge. And when we are talking about research, we should understand that it initiates in the form of question or problem or an issue in the mind of the researcher. Research also deals with problems and subproblems. Then we have the research methods and methodology distinction. When we are talking about research methods and methodologies, we should understand that research methods, they are understood as all those methods or techniques that we use for carrying out research, as against research methodology, which means a systematic way to solve the problem. Similarly, research method means those methods, their strengths and limitation during the course of study a research project or a research study. While research methodology would include when we are listing appropriate research methods and the rationale or logic behind those methods which we are using. Research methodology would also include context and the objective of each method. That's why we are using a particular method. In case of research methods, we also mean the sample or testing population. data collection methods and instruments like interviews, observations, questionnaire, as well as data analysis techniques, how we analyze and explain the data, also the presentation of findings. This is different from research methodology where how we are going to implement or execute a design, how the research is carried out, how we are trying to solve research problems scientifically and systematically, answering questions like why I'm using a particular design or why I'm opting for certain research methods, how, when, who, what, where, and which. Answering all these questions would come under the term research methodology. To put it simply, research methodology is an umbrella term. It encompasses the term research methods. Like research methodology is broad at macro level and they determine your research methods. And the next uh, concept would be or topic is the essentials of research. By the essentials of research, we mean what are the qualities which are really needed or which are very important, must for the conduction of research. So let me remind you that first of all, research should be controlled. It should be rigorous, systematic. It should be valid and verifiable. And then we have the quality of empirical. It should be empirical based on hard evidence. It should be critical as well. And then we have to address the issues of validity and reliability we have discussed in details. And lastly, the topic which we have come across in the previous lectures is deductive versus inductive approaches to research. There are two different approaches or two different philosophies which are working in the background behind every research endeavor. Like in case of deductive logic, here the research would and is generated from general to specific, as against inductive logic, where the research would proceed from specific to general. While deductive logic is top to bottom, inductive logic is bottom to top research. Deduction is a form of argument which is supposed to be conclusive. That is, conclusion must necessarily follow from the reason. And inductive logic includes to draw conclusions from one or more particular facts or pieces of information or evidence. Now, we move on to the topic under discussion for this lecture. First of all, we are going to discuss what is research problem. Remember, a research problem is the problem or issue that leads to the need for a study. It is also called a problem or an issue or a challenge which a researcher encounters either in professional, academic, or personal environment and wants to have a solution for it. Remember, it is very important to identify and formulate a research problem as it is the first step in the research process. If you are not able to identify and formulate or state a research problem appropriately in the start, so the rest of the process would be difficult to handle. It is the most challenging and difficult phase of the research process. There is no doubt about it. Selection of a research problem depends on several factors such as the knowledge, skills, interest, expertise, motivation, creativity of the researcher with respect to the area chosen. Now, if you see here, when we are talking about what is research problem, so it is either a problem or issue, it might be a challenge which a researcher or an investigator would face in his or her professional, academic, or personal life. And then it's really important that we identify and we formulate research problem. It's not easy, it's quite difficult, but it's really important to understand that what is the nature of research problem, how to identify it, and how to appropriately formulate it, state it in words. Remember that this selection of a research problem may come from different sources or different factors. What is the researcher's knowledge? He or she has acquired the skills needed for it, the interest level, the expertise, and motivation in relation to the subject. Now, in case of research problem, we should understand that a research problem can originate from many potential sources. From where a research problem can emerge, there are different potential sources. For example, a researcher's personal experience in life or workplace. There might be a debate in the literature which causes a researcher to carry out research and fill the gap in the literature. Or sometimes there is a policy debate in government. So in order to address the issue at hand, the researcher would start conducting research in order to address that issue and serve the government and formulate policy for the said purpose. Identifying and stating a research problem underlying a study is challenging. Yes, it's not easy to identify and state a research problem for a study. If the problem is not clearly stated, identified, or formulated right from the start, it would be very difficult later on to understand other aspects of the study, especially significance of the research, because significance of the research is linked with research problem. If as a researcher you identify your research problem appropriately and you are able to formulate it correctly, you can clearly spell the significance of the research. The research problem is often confused with the research questions. Yes, generally people think that research problem and research questions are one and the same, but there is a big difference. Research problem is the issue or the concern or the challenge which the researcher is trying to address or solve or to have solution for it. And the research questions are the tools. The research questions are the ways through which the researcher aims to solve their problem. So they are not the same. Research questions are the means towards an end, and the end here in this case is the research problem. So while the research problem is an end in itself, research questions are a means towards that end. They are not an end in itself. So research questions are developed in order to address or solve the problem which the researcher would like to address in order to understand or explain the problem. And remember, since research problem and research questions, they are the components which come in the start of a research study as far as the write-up is concerned. So normally they would come in the introduction chapter. So this challenge of understanding the nature of the research problem and properly formulating it is actually multiplied as the introduction section of a research study needs to. The introduction section of a research study needs to motivate the reader to read further and to see significance of the study. Like we have to engage the reader and develop and motivate their interest so that they can read further and see the significance of the study for themselves. Now, what we mean by characteristics of a qualitative research problem? Like what are the characteristics or characteristic feature of a qualitative research problem? When the concept is immature due to a conspicuous lack of theory and previous research. When a notion or concept is not ripe enough, it's not mature, more work hasn't, sufficient work has not been done, and it might be due to a conspicuous lack of theory in previous research because it has been neglected and there is no theory or no understanding available about it and no previous research has been done. A conspicuous lack of theory and evident negligence is there. uh, no theory is available, no work has been done on that concept. A notion that the available theory may be inaccurate. Sometimes if there is a theory available, but that theory may be inaccurate, inappropriate, incorrect, or biased. So you want to correct, make it appropriate, or make it neutral. So this may be one of the reasons that a research problem is selected based on this justification. Then you have there might be a need exist to explore and describe the phenomena and to develop a theory. Sometimes a phenomena exists, and as a researcher, you want to explore, explain the phenomena, and come up with fresh understanding. When you are exploring and describing a phenomena, a topic, or a concept for the first time, so you are offering new understandings about it. You are offering or developing a new theory. And the last one is the nature of the phenomena may not be suited to quantitative measure. Now, here the point is that sometimes a research problem or an issue is selected for qualitative research because the previous understanding has been based on quantitative research, or sometimes quantitative research may not be suitable. This is the issue of suitability. So these are some of the characteristics of a qualitative research problem from Morse. Based on these characteristics, where a research problem is selected, sometimes is enough understanding is not available. Uh, the current theories are inaccurate, inappropriate, or biased, or sometimes quantitative measures would not be able to justify or explain the phenomena accurately. So that's why qualitative research is preferred and the problem is selected due to this aspect. For example, students in university classrooms have anxiety which interferes with their speaking English language. A problem. For example, a teacher comes across an issue or problem where students in the classroom have anxiety to the level where it interferes with their speaking ability, speaking English language. Now, this problem, this challenge would require the researcher, the teacher researcher, to go to universities and conduct interviews and or observations with students and teachers. So this is how you would be able to explore it. As against in quantitative studies, the problem is best addressed by understanding what factors or variables influence an outcome. So this is looking at the same phenomena from different angles. Like in quantitative uh, investigations, the problem is usually solved or addressed by understanding what factors or other variables influence an outcome or result. Moreover, as far as quantitative studies are concerned, researchers sometimes advance a theory to test, and they will incorporate substantial review of the literature to identify research questions that needs to be answered. So while as far as theory is concerned, one of the striking features between quantitative and qualitative research would be, especially in relation to research problem, is that is against quantitative research where a theory is already present and the researcher's task is to validate, confirm, or testify, confirm a theory. In qualitative research, there is no theory available, rather, theory would emerge as a result of the research process. The next topic is the deficiency model. Now, in relation to research problem, this deficiency model is where in the introduction section, research study would include highlighting the research gap which exists in the literature. As I've told you that research problems are normally written in the start and introduction chapter of the study. So according to the deficiency model, here the approach would be to write introduction to a research studies that build on gaps existing in the literature. Now, highlighting gaps in the literature, it means you are identifying the problem. And here are 5 parts, and a separate paragraph is usually devoted to each part for an introduction of about 2 pages in length. These are the 5 steps. First of all, state the research problem as part of the deficiency model. And when you are stating the research problem, you are actually doing what? You are reviewing previous research studies that have addressed the same problem which you are addressing. You try to indicate deficiencies in the research studies, the previous studies. either from theoretical point of view or from methodological point of view. You also highlight the significance of the study for particular audiences, like for teachers community, for professionals in other organizations. And you state the purpose statement. What is the purpose of your study? This is the end of this research problem. We will continue with the same. A couple of references are Creswell 2013 and Cohen 2007. These are some of the resources which I've consulted for this lecture. Thank you.